Good afternoon, everyone. This is the report of Group 3, Chapter 2. I am Filipino but I don't know Managsala. Rediscovering Philippine Art.
So, introduction. Philippine art in general is poignant, romantic, and even nostalgic. Before we were influenced by the Westerners, we were already developing our own sets of cultures and values. During the colonial period, gradually we became infused by foreign influence. So parang naghalo-halo na. Ang dami, 'di ba sabi nga nila the Filipinos parang andun na lahat ng culture kasi nga ang daming sumakop sa atin. In a way, it is quite saddening how the good heritage of the old Filipino manner, ethics, and even cultural markers like our very own baybayin were superimposed by newer trends. So, yung baybayin natin, parang a few decades nawala siya. Hindi siya naging mainstream dahil nga nagkaroon ng English, ng Spanish, ganyan. And then, it is nice that right now they are bringing it back for us new generations to learn it and understand it. Kasi it's really important. In our other subjects, they said na yung baybayin, if you don't use it, if we do not use it, it will die out. It will die down. So most of us, especially in our generation, cultivated the idea that old-fashioned is old school. Even the beautiful way of courtship is gone in the mist of the past. No more harana and fewer dalagang Filipinas. So yung harana, naging, di ba dati, you would come up to the house of your, yung the lady that you like and then you serenade her. She's in the balcony and you're down there on the road serenading. Pero right now, it's really naging mas madali na because you can just chat, text, meet up na hindi na involved minsan yung parents. Because before, you have to involve the parents, the family. Pero ngayon, naging mas easier na siya. It is important na yung courtship, yung process of courtship is there. Pero ngayon, parang nagkakaroon na ng shortcut. So, Philippine art, on the other hand, has been conscious of these changes and has become a way to reminisce and remember our old virtues and rich roots. That is why it is very important to study Philippine art. It is part of our identity, and that simply because we have a beautiful culture worth celebrating.
Let's proceed on Lesson 1. How Philippine is Philippine art? A survey on the markers of our artistic culture. Introduction. Applying the knowledge of art criticism here, we can see how much painting rendition of a Marcellus work mirrors the function of art we have studied here before. The subject matter, the context, the imagery, and even the use of light here obviously signifies something local, hence presenting itself as a reminder of our culture and even a sense of identity.
We do have an identity. We Filipinos are actually art lovers. We love grandiose and colorful things, and these are so evident in our jeepneys. The colorful decorations of Pahiyas Festival, we also have Panagbenga, Sumulong, and kahit yung mga simple festivals in our municipalities, we have the banderitas, which are triangles na different colors. We put that up sa mga streets. Our native pigments and colors, and even on our clothings, yung mga native clothings natin, very colorful siya. You won't see na parang ganito lang, no monochrome. There are lots of combination of colors, pati accessories that are ancestor wears. There's usually the presence of yellow, red, white, black, and orange. May green din, and then our ancestors in Mindanao, they would put up in their window yung mga pieces of tela which are so colorful and bright, and then paint yung some sides of their wall, yung mga designs nung wood wall nila. They would paint it with color because it symbolizes yung parang it would ward off bad spirits or bad basta malas, ganon. The color means it would ward off yung mga malas. And sometimes we don't even have a sense of color harmony because of our love for colorful things, and nothing is wrong with that. Our diversity is indeed reflected in our forms, and it makes us united and unique. Okay, abstraction. Filipino artists are important forces in the formation of our national identity. Images and the culture of making artwork has power in itself. There are notable artists who have captured our Filipino sensibilities in our own way. So we'll be discussing this later.
Good morning, ma'am, and good morning, classmates. I am Vilma Ilangkita, and I'm discussing to you the Fernando Amorsolo interpreted the Philippine Light. Fernando Amorsolo was known as the painter of the Philippine sunlight because his illuminated landscape displayed the magnificence of the country's sunshine. We can compare his style with the Impressionist painters who also aim to express the simple beauties of nature and life. Such artists are Auguste Renoir, Edward Manet, and the 19th century portrait artist Auguste Dominique Ingres. Because of Amorsolo's expertise on his medium, which is oil, and his sensitivity to light, Amorsolo was able to paint luminous skin as light strikes it and create a certain glow. Others even say that you can almost feel the blood rushing underneath the fish. Thank you.
Quick facts. Analogous is a type of color harmony, which is technically means those colors are the next to each other in the color wheel. For example, yellow, yellow, and green are categorized as analogous colors. The word analogous is defined as two things with a similar function or feature that are comparable to one another. In this case, the two colors green and yellow are relatable to one another because they are neighbors on the color wheel. If you mix these two colors, you create a new color. You create a new color, yellow-green, that has attributes of both. Thus, the colors are analogous because of their close relationship to one another. Interior designers often use analogous colors to decorate a room because of its sense of harmony. B. He was coined as the master of Philippine light. This is the kind of light that when it strikes tan flesh, or the leaves of trees, for example, one can immediately see a range of analogous or related colors such as yellow-green and yellow and white that appears at the same time and makes one feel the warmth at the scene created. Because of his excellent style, his painting never fail bring back the warm and idyllic scene of Philippine province and tradition. Amorsolo was known as the painter of Philippine sunlight because his illuminated landscape displayed the magnificence of the country, sunshine, and portrayed traditional Filipino costumes, culture, fiestas, and ordinary occupations such as rice harvesting and mango picking.
Number 2. Vicente Manansala developed his rendition of transparent cubism technique. Manansala developed transparent cubism wherein the delicate tones, shapes, and patterns of figure and environment are masterfully superimposed. A fine example of Manansala using this transparent and translucent technique is his composition Carabao. A cubism was pioneered jointly by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque and was described to be the most radical innovation of art.
Unlike Amorsolo Manansala echoes the proletarian painters of the United States. His works were not idyllic. Emotions and backgrounds showing evidence of real events happening at his time like poverty and economic depression. And skin tones are not luminous but rather kayumangi. And here are some examples of the application of transparent cubism. Manansala developed transparent cubism, where the delicate tones, shapes, and patterns of figure and environment are masterly superimposed.
We have number 3, Hernando R. Ocampo's style was considered by some critics as the most Filipino. Most of H.R. Ocampo's work are purely abstraction, therefore, it is hard to pinpoint why he was described as the most Filipino painter ever. However, it is not content but rather the style of his work where one can see his unique painterly approach. H.R. Ocampo was a Filipino artist best known for his abstract painting. And Ocampo used bold color palettes and biomorphic shape inspired by both his country landscape and by science fiction writing. Over the course of his career, his interest evolved from depiction of workers to abstract forms. And we have B. What is unique in his work are the abstract compositions of biological forms that are portrayed in bold stroke of colors that seem to oscillate before your eyes. His subject matter are usually nature's flora and fauna, hence reflected of the natural beauty of his country. Then, H.R. Ocampo was credited for inventing a new mode of abstraction that exemplifies Philippine flora and fauna, and portrays sunshine, stars, and rain using movement and bold colors. Ocampo utilized fantasy and science fiction as the basis for his work, and his art is described to be the abstract compositions of biological forms that seem to oscillate, quiver, inflame, and multiply like
Napoleon Abueva's modernist but Filipino-themed sculpture. Napoleon Abueva was known as the father of the modern Philippine sculpture. Characterized by the planar and geometric look of his sculpture, Abueva veered away from the conservatism of his mentor, Guillermo Tolentino. Guillermo Tolentino was a Filipino sculptor and professor of the University of the Philippines. He was designated as the National Artist of the Philippines for sculpture in 1973, 3 years before his death. Guillermo Tolentino was known for sculpting the University of the Philippines Oblation. Oblation is a concrete statue by the Philippine national artist Guillermo Tolentino, which served as the iconic symbol of the University of the Philippines. Oblation remains a symbol of strength, resilience, and freedom and thought for UP and its graduates. Napoleon Abueva still kept Filipino themes in his sculptures such as rice planters, mother and child, carabaos, and the like. However, his bold and edgy interpretation of such themes intensifies the kind of spirit present in his dynamic and often monumental sculpture.